Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Build It with Tim. On this week's episode, we're talking about embedding video calls inside of your Tadabase applications. Okay, so I'm going to be building this out as somewhat like a module. Okay, so this is not a full-blown application. This is a piece of an application that you can build into your existing application. So let's say you have an application that you're using internally for your business, and you want to offer video calls for you and your teammates directly inside of your application. So to do this, we're going to be using um, a lot of basic database techniques such as connection fields and connecting tables and records to one another. We're also going to have a small intro into the custom component. And then the key to all of this is a service called Whereby, which is the reason we're using this one. It came from a user suggestion. They were asking how to use this particular service, but they actually have an embedding option. So we're going to go with that one and show you how to use that. But we can kind of use this system with video calls, obviously like Zoom, things that are used quite heavily throughout different organizations. You can kind of mimic a similar behavior to what we're going to be doing here. But if you want to embed something inside your application, then you need to make sure that that service that you're using actually allows for embedding. So the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the finished module, and then we'll go into the builder and start setting everything up. Okay, so here is our quote unquote finished module. This is something that can be built out and hopefully integrated into your existing application, all right, with just a few additional tables and a few additional pages. What I'm looking at now, is a page of invitations for meetings that have been created. So here's the meeting that was created, and we can invite other users from our application, and then those invitations show up here on this page. Now, because this meeting is hosted by me, I have this available under Hosted by Me tab rather than the Hosted by Others. And when I click on Join as Host, you're going to see it's going to load up this embedded video call here where I can join the meeting as the host, and then others can join as participants, and we can all have this meeting together, and it's all hosted within our Tadabase application. Okay, so before we actually start building out our application, I'm just going to show you briefly the Whereby platform that we're going to be using to embed these video rooms. Okay, so these are a little bit different than regular meetings. These are rooms that are open. Anyways, you'll see it through the setup and through their documentation. But I've already created a room here, and I've defined some settings such as the room size, whether or not it's locked, and the end date of this particular room. Okay, so you can create a room that could end in 30 days. You could create a room that's going to end tomorrow. So you can see mine is ending tomorrow. And I've also defined a couple other settings like recording is disabled and streaming is disabled. Okay, now the two things that are going to be really important from this page is the host link and the participant link. But we'll come back to those once we actually build out the necessary fields and tables that we need inside of our application. Okay, so let's go into our builder and start working on this. All right, so the first thing that we're going to need here inside of the data builder, you can see, nope, no users yet. Okay, that's fine. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to create a table for rooms, okay, because we've created a room in Whereby, and we need to actually keep track of that room inside of our application. Okay, so we're going to create a table called rooms. And the second table we're going to create is meetings. Okay, so for every single room that we have, we can create meetings for that particular room. All right, now these meeting records are basically just they're just regular records. There's nothing special about them. It's just that we're pulling information from the room record. Okay, so we have this room created in Whereby. We're saving information into Tadabase. Then when we create a meeting, we can reference that room information. And then the reason we are actually creating separate meeting records is because we can give them specific names using the same room. So it could be like, weekly stand up, or let's see, you're working on a project and you're having like a discovery phase or something, then you can make a meeting specifically for that. And then you can also assign a specific time and date. Okay, and then from that we can create child records for that meeting for invitations. Okay, so who are you inviting? What members of your organization are going to be joining this meeting? And you can keep track of those records in a third table. Okay, so we have rooms, meetings, meeting invitations. All right, now let's go back to the rooms table. Sorry, forgot what I was trying to say. The rooms table here. So basically, anything that we're keeping in the rooms table is coming directly from whereby. So we have the room name, which is going to be this. You can also modify that if you want to, because we're not really using that a whole lot. It's basically for your reference. We're going to keep track of the host link, the participant link, and then these options too, so that you can tell what room has those settings without having to go back to this platform. Okay, so we're going to do something like room name. Then we're also going to set up the end date. End date. We're also going to look at or keep track of whether or not the room is locked. So we'll say locked, yes or no. We don't need color badge for that. And then let's see, we also need, what else do we need? Oh, the room size. Sure, we can keep track of that too. So the two options that were available were like 2 to 4 and 2 to 2 to 200. So we're going to keep track of those. We can do room size and host link. Well, no, okay, sorry, that's not a text field. We actually need to do a long text field for the host link because the link that's provided is actually quite long. So we'll do 2 long text for participant link, and host link. And that should be it. We could, I guess I'm gonna tell you about how to do this using the custom component and an embedding option that Whereby provides. You can embed this with an iframe, but we're not going to do that method. We're actually going to be using the um, where is it? The whereby element method. So the reason is because we can provide a specific URL, either the host link or the participant link. So if you want to use an iframe, you certainly can, but that's going to be a little bit more basic and less options that you have available to you. So we're going to be using the whereby embed element. Okay, so let's go back to the builder here. We're all set with this for now. We have everything that we need for our room. Okay, so we can actually start populating this information right now. So we'll just give that room a name, even though it is different than what we have here, but that's okay. So the end date was 9/16. It was locked. The room size is 2 to 200. And we are now going to copy these host and participant links. So you can see here why we chose long text. The link is quite long, so we need to have enough characters in order to save that value. The participant link is much shorter, and the reason being is that the host link has a room key associated to it. So this is a unique key that when we click on or when we actually load this link in their embeddable element, it knows that we're the host. Okay, so we're going to do the host link and participant link, and we can save this now. All right, so the meetings, we'll build out our basic data structure now, and then of course we'll come back and visit the page structure when we're ready to actually add information there. But we want to start with a connection to the room. Okay, so each meeting is going to be associated with one of the rooms that we've created. And I guess it's also worth mentioning that you can create these rooms via API. Okay, so that means we can create a pipe to actually create new rooms so that you don't have to go back to whereby to actually create new rooms. You can create them on the fly, set all the necessary configurations and settings that you want, and then you can save those created rooms back to your rooms table. Okay, but we're not going to do that now. We're just going to show you how to do that, how to set everything up once that's actually done. Okay, and then of course you can create new rooms inside of Whereby relatively easily through their user interface. Okay, so we have a connection to a room. I'm actually going to keep meeting name. I'm just going to move it. So meeting name, yes, we're going to keep. We also want a date and time for when the meeting is. We're also going to have a field. We want to know who's hosting the meeting. So hosted by. And then we're going to add identical fields that we added to the rooms table called host link and participant link. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to actually pass all of that information from the room's record to the meeting record based on the connection to the room. So I'm going to pull in all those values, and I actually want to save them on the meeting record. If you don't want to save something to a particular record, like a connected value to a particular record, it's not necessary. But in this case, I actually want to save those values. So I want to pull them in from the rooms table. I want to save them on the meetings table. Okay, so now that we have that, we are good to go, except for one field, which I'm going to come back to in a moment. The next table is the meeting invitations. So we have, this is basically a conglomerate of all of our other existing tables: users, rooms, and meetings, right? Since every invitation is going to have a user associated with it, every invitation, we're going to know what room they were invited for, what meeting they were invited for, and then we're also going to want to find out whether or not they're actually attending. So we'll start with all of our connection fields. Um, so what user is attending or invited? I'm going to delete that default field. We want to know the room, and we want to know the meeting. Okay, and then we'll give them a radio field for whether or not they are attending. Are you attending? And we'll say yes, no, and maybe. Okay, and the reason I'm using a radio field is because I want icons for this. So we'll do check, cross for no, and a question mark for maybe. Okay, now that last field on the meetings table that I referenced, this is going to be a roll-up field. So for every meeting we create, we want to know how many people are actually attending. Number of attendees. So for the roll-up, we're going to say what field do we want to go count or look at information in, and we're going to say the invitations. And then for our function, we're going to count, and we're only going to count records when are you attending is yes. Okay, so that's pretty much it for our data structure. Okay, now the pages. Again, because this is somewhat of like a module that we can piece into an existing application, I'm not going to build out multiple layouts. I'm going to do the pages that I feel are necessary for this as just regular pages inside of a single layout. And then I suppose it's up to you to figure out where you'd like to place those pages inside of your existing application based on the best possible fit that they may have. So the first page that we're going to need, obviously, is rooms, right? So we want to be able to create new rooms. Okay, so in my head, this would be something that like an administrator would be able to do, but we want to be able to create new rooms. And then we also want to be able to create new meetings. So we'll do a page for meetings. We want to be able to add new meetings. And in this case, I'm actually going to do a detail page because from the meeting details page is where I'm going to add new invitations. Okay, so we have rooms, we have meetings, and then meeting details is where we're going to actually add um, invitations. So we are going to add a form here to add a new meeting invitation connected to this meeting. Okay, this is what we want to select here. We want to add, the reason we're doing this on the detail page is because we get this data source option made available to us where we can set that connection to a meeting automatically. Okay, so we are going to add that form and we'll clean it up later. And I'm going to move this and put a table right next to it so that we can see all of those invitations. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to select one of these predefined data sources that are only available to us because we're on a detail page for a particular meeting. So we click on a meeting, we go to the detail page. Tadabase knows what meeting we are referencing here. So now we can view meeting invitations that are only connected to this page's meeting. That's essentially what's happening. So let's see, so the user, and let's say, are you attending? Okay, let's clean up this form. So we want to invite a user, and that's actually it. Okay, so we can set up some rules here to say to fill out the other information. So the meeting is already going to be filled out because this is an invitation that's connected to the meeting. So we already have that information. The room, we can set a connected value of the meeting room. So, right, I was creating connections, slightly redundant connections on each table, but it allows me to really fully utilize record rules and pass information in any direction that I want. So we're going to set the room to the connected value of the meeting room. Okay, so the form gets submitted, the meeting connection is set automatically, and then from that meeting connection, we can go look at the room that was connected to the meeting and also attach it to the invitation. And no value for are you attending, we'll let the user decide that. Okay, so we have that form and that's good to go. Let's see. Next, we're going to move on to add meetings. Okay, so there's a few ways that you could handle this, and I guess I'll tell you the problem first, and not necessarily the problem, but what we need to do is when somebody creates a meeting, we want to make sure that that person also gets an invitation, right? So if I create a meeting, I need to be listed in those invitation records as well as everybody else that I am inviting. Okay, so when we add a new meeting, first let's clean up this form. We'll select the room, we'll give it a name, we'll do a date, time, and that's all we need. We don't need the link, the participant link, or host link, because those are going to be pulled in automatically. And the number of attendees is going to count automatically. So when we create this form or submit this form, there's two things that's going to happen. Number one, we're going to update the host link to a connected value of the room's host link. We're going to update the participant link, the connected value of the room's participant link. Okay, and that's good for that. And then we're going to add a second rule where we're going to insert a connected record into the invitations. Okay, and in here, we're going to set the user to the logged in user, or actually we could do a form value of the hosted by, okay, because that's the assumption that we're making here is that whoever is hosting the meeting also needs an invitation. So we're going to set it like that, okay, and then we will set room, we can do we might as well just set everything here. So room, meeting, no, we don't, sorry. Room, it gets set to room. What else do we need? Are you attending? I guess we can set are you attending to yes because we're the host. Of course we're attending. So yes. And then meeting, we don't need to set, right? Because meeting is being set by the actual action of inserting the connected record. So the connection in that case is the meeting. So we don't need to set the meeting, and that should be good to go. All right, last page that we need. Um, this could probably go one of a few different ways, but I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. And we're going to have a page that's just called My Meetings. Okay, so this is going to keep track of all of your invitations. And the way we're going to do that is by showing meeting invitations that are connected to the user, or to the logged in user using the user's connection here. So we don't need to add any invitations to this table using a form. Okay, this is just purely just going to display invitations. But we do need a details page, and actually we need two detail pages. And the reason why is because we are going to embed the actual room. Okay, so the video, we're going to embed that on the detail pages. We need one for the host and one for the participant. So for now, we can just select this where we're including a link to view more details about the invitation. Yes, that'll give us our first detail page. All right. And before I move on to the second one, we'll go through and label all of this correctly. So the first one is going to be join as host, and we'll rename that, make it a button, and hide the column title. And now on this detail page, I'm also going to say join as host. So that's going to be the name of the page. The page slug, which is actually up in your URL, will say join as host. And that one's Good now. So now to create a second detail page, all we need to do is go back into the table to the link section and click record details page, and that will create a second one. This one is going to be joined as participant. We will make this a button, and forgot I want to hide the column title as well. Okay, and then lastly, we will update this information as well. All right, so now we have our two detail pages that we're going to use with our custom components to embed the whereby room. Okay, but before we do that, we need to ensure that when somebody's actually looking at this table of my meetings, that they can't join as a host if they're not a host, and vice versa. So to do this, we're just going to create filters, or filter tabs rather. And let's see, did I not put... Oh, you know what? I forgot something. So on the meeting invitations, what am I looking at here? Yeah, on the meeting invitation record, I forgot to include a connection um, to the user for who's hosting it. So each invitation is also going to know who the meeting is hosted by. Okay, so again, a lot of like seemingly redundant connections here, but I need them in different places throughout the application. I need to actually reference the raw data and not a connected value or anything. So I need to put that information here as well. So we need to go back to add meetings. Add meetings hosted by, yes, okay. So this also, we need to update this one rule where we're inserting the connected record. We also need to update the hosted by to the same value. So the user and hosted by, in this case, same thing, because I'm creating the meeting, I'm the host, I also need an invitation. Okay, and then we need to go to the meeting details where we are inserting new invitations or creating new invitations, and we need to update this rule as well to set the hosted by to whoever is hosting the meeting, and that's through the connected value of meetings and hosted by. All right, back to this page. Sorry, slightly sidetracked there. My apologies for that. So back to this, we want to go to our filters, filter tabs, and the first thing we're going to say is hosted by me, and we'll have that be the default tab, and this will be if hosted by is the logged in user, then we will filter out those records. And then the next one we'll have is hosted by others, and that is if hosted by is not the logged in user. Okay, so we have these two, we don't need the user field on there. Hosted by, probably don't even need room. We'll put in a connected, sorry, I'm sidetracked here. So we have hosted by for the invitation table. So we're showing who's it hosted by, what is the meeting, are you attending, and then we'll pull in the connected meeting date and time. And that's good now. Okay, so back to what I was trying to say. So we have two detail links on this page here, or on this table, one for the host and one for the participant. We've set up filters to show us records or invitations based on whether or not the host is you as the logged in user. And what we need to do now is if hosted by is the logged in user, then we only want them to click join as host. So that means we're going to hide the join as participant button. And the opposite is true for the other filter tab. If the hosted by is not the logged in user, then we want to hide join as host. Okay, and now this should be all ready to test and fill out with information. So first we're going to add a couple users. We'll do myself. We'll do, and two test users. So John Doe Yes, I know. And Jane Doe. Okay, we have our users. That's all good now. So let's go to, let's just set up a quick login redirect so that we can, um, we'll go to rooms. That's fine. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so we're ready to preview this. So let's go to login, and we'll log in as me. All right, so here we are looking at our rooms where we could add new rooms from Whereby. And again, this could also come from, if you created it in Whereby, you can copy all that information over here to this form, or you could set up this form with a pipe and actually create a room via API and then return all the values and set everything that way. Now we're going to create a new meeting. So first we're going to select our room that's already there. Okay, hosted by, it'll be hosted by me. And we'll call this, I don't know, this is a project, project discovery. And the meeting is going to be today, right now. Okay, so fine. So this is an urgent meeting. All right, so that created the meeting. I realized we could probably hide a lot of this information here. So let's actually go do that now. So we'll do the room, meeting name, date, time, hosted by. We don't need to show the links. If we could do the number of attendees though. And just because I like it, we'll make this into a button as well. All right, let's refresh this page and take a look. Okay, and we should see that number of attendees. So using that form rule by creating the new meeting where we inserted a new invitation, we already inserted myself as an invitation. Okay, and we can see that too if I go to this page in my meetings, hosted by me. Okay, this is my attendee record. Okay, now let's add our other invitations. So Jane Doe will be attending and John Doe will be attending. Okay, now if we were logged in as John or Jane Doe, then we can modify this "Are you attending" record using either a form or an or inline edit, whatever we want to do there. The choice is yours. For me right now, just so that we have this populated, I'm just going to set it for them in the builder. All right, now what's the last thing I want to show you before we go to custom component? Okay, so hosted by me has the record, hosted by others it's not. Filters are working. All right, join as host takes me to the join as host detail page. Okay, so this is the invitation detail page where we're going to start building out the custom component and actually embedding Whereby. All right, so that's where we're at now. Start with join as host. I'm going to get rid of the detail component here. I don't think we need any other information. You're welcome to include meeting information if you want. But for me, I'm just going to leave it completely blank. I want to focus on just the actual embedded room. So we'll choose the custom component and then we will choose detail. And we're actually going to choose the detail of the meeting, the connected meeting. So the invitations are connected to a meeting. We're going to choose the connected meeting. Now we're going to go back to Whereby and we're going to choose the using Whereby embed element. And what we need here is this section right here. So you can also use the host room URL if you want to give the user host privileges. We are going to come back up to the top here and copy this information, but for now we're just going to copy this. So this is the actual embed. In between where it says each records. Okay, so this is, you're going to see every time you add a custom component, you're going to see this opening tag and closing tag of each records and then closing with each. This tells the custom component to start looping through the records at this point. So anything within these two tags is going to, we can reference field values from. So I'm going to replace that default room URL with the host link. And that means that when we load this page, so we're on meeting invitation details, we're showing details about the meeting record. So one meeting record, we're going to loop through that one record. and we are going to display or basically sub in this field value into this HTML. Okay, very oversimplified explanation there, but it is what it is here. So, okay, I told you we were going to reference this other stuff here from this whereby document. So we are loading a script, okay, in order to initialize this whereby embed, and then we're also styling the whereby embed. So we're going to take these two things, the script and the style, and we're going to go to our settings, custom header footer, and paste them right here, okay, in the custom header footer section. And then for personal preference, I'm just going to change the height of the embedded room just by taking it from 700 pixels tall to 800 pixels tall. So the top line one here is loading a JavaScript library that Whereby uses to run all of this embedded room stuff. And then here we're just styling this element and we're defining a height. Okay, so we can save this now. It looks like I already did. Yep, so that's saved. And then we need to set up the participant one as well. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to delete this detail component. I'm going to add the custom component. I'm going to choose detail because I only am loading it for one record, and that is the meeting that's connected to the invitation. And then here, we're going to go back and get, well, we can copy this one too. That's fine because we're replacing the URL. Now for this one, because we're on the join as participant detail page, we can just include the participant link. And that'll make sure that it loads the whereby room as if you are a participant. All right, and I think we're good to go here. So now I can go to my meetings, right? Let me just refresh this and make sure we're good. My camera will likely not work here. Join as host, we can see the whereby is now showing. So this is the embedded room that we have. We can ask for permissions. And yeah, my camera's not going to work, but now I could actually join the meeting. And then now these meetings could happen inside of Tadabase. So in another, let's see, in another window here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up another window. And I'm going to go to this same application, except I'm going to log in as John Doe. And what's going to happen when a participant actually joins is they have to knock, right? So the room is locked by default. When they join, it's going to knock, and then the host has to let them in. So I mean, stuff you're already likely very familiar with. I'm almost there. Hold on. So John at test.com. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. My meetings. Okay. So now this is what it looks like for John. John has no records and hosted by me for his invitations, but hosted by others, you can see he does. So we can join as participant. Let me get this back out of the way. John has to enter his name. John Doe, request permissions. And then we click knock, and there we are. So now John is not going to be let in, and now John is in. Okay, before the mic gets too unruly there. All right, so that's basically it. All right, we have our meeting, or our room is now embedded here. We can invite users. The last thing that I'm going to build into this is some sort of notification system. Okay, so if you have been following along, I feel that this would be a great opportunity to maybe use the real-time notifications from a previous episode of Build It with Tim. That would be fantastic, where you could send a notification to a user directly saying, you know, the meeting has started, or the host has started the meeting, or you've been invited to a meeting, whatever. Again, there's lots of options there. And the reason that we chose this whereby embed is for more of a low code solution. So there are JavaScript events. If you are a developer familiar with some JavaScript, or you have somebody who could help you with this, then we can listen to events. So when somebody knocks, or when the event is ready, the host joins, right, then you can send these JavaScript events and do various things. So that's why I chose this. It's got much more flexibility. But for now, all we're going to do is when somebody adds a invitation, we're going to send a notification, an email notification to um, to the user's email who's been invited, and we're going to send it from wherever we want. And let's say new meeting invitation, and then we can load field values here, right? So meeting and who's hosting it. And I realize now that by doing that, what we might actually want to do is also include the date time, the meeting date time field inside of the invitation as well. So inside inside this table here, I chose to display this as a connected value. We might actually want to include this as a saved value on the invitations record. I can set this up quickly from a table rule. So we'll do date time, connected value of the meetings, date time. And the reason we want to do that is so that we can include it in things like emails. Okay, so now we have direct access to that when we're referencing the invitations table. We don't have to pull it from any other table. So we'll do invitation, we'll go back to our notification, and now we can include the date time. Okay, so that's your basic email. It says it goes out, you got a new invitation, who's hosting the meeting, the name of the meeting, and when the meeting is. All right, I think that's it for today. I guess this we could take this a lot further. Obviously, every single Build It with Tim episode ends this way. The opportunities from this point are yours to decide. Okay, build this into your existing applications. Let me know what you think. Happy to discuss. Same old spiel. I've said it like 20 times. It still applies now. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know how I can help. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care, everybody.